Hi, everybody. Welcome back. Hopefully you can hear me okay. Me and fighting with technology is a forever thing. But I'm super excited to come back and just drop back into the group here. We've been putting together so much stuff in terms of building out your podcast management business, learning the skill set in podcast management. And so just number one, thank you to everyone who's posted in the group, sent us messages, sent us questions. So what we're going to talk about here today is more on the business building side of things. My role with Produce Your Podcast, which is owned by Tracy DeForge, and we're the team behind this group, is as the Chief Revenue Officer. So I oversee all things sales, business development, strategic partnerships, revenue, kind of an obvious answer. And I also work really closely with Camille, who you'll meet as well, over on the marketing side. But the business development piece, the lead gen, closing, all of that stuff is very much in my wheelhouse. And it's really one of the biggest questions that we've gotten in this group so far. So what I want to do today is pull back the curtain a little bit in terms of our lead generation process, and then also how you're navigating some of these conversations when you're interacting with people that could and should and hopefully will be your future clients. So number one, the big thing that I want to share with you is that LinkedIn has actually been one of our most effective lead gen and marketing platforms. And Camille and I in particular have been really focusing in on that platform for about 12 months now. We keep joking it's like our LinkedIn birthday. Because really the way our agency grew in its first couple of years was referral based, which is amazing. And that's something we're going to continue to do. And then we wanted to start to branch out, open up these doors for social selling, open up these marketing platforms, just up level all around. So if you are doing referrals right now and you're making sales through that, that's amazing. Please don't stop. Don't burn down the referral piece to go and do some LinkedIn social selling and marketing. But I think it's also really important to be like, okay, well, if my referrals aren't staying consistent, or maybe I'm just looking for another way of opening up, we have found LinkedIn to be really, really powerful for that. So number one, I love LinkedIn just as a platform in general, right? From a marketing and sales standpoint. And it's really become one of our biggest lead sources. It's one of our biggest client sources. We promote all of our webinars there. There's just a lot happening. And what we're doing to actually generate leads on LinkedIn is we are just, surprise, surprise, going after podcasters that are looking for a podcast manager and an agency to help them with their show. So what that means specifically is that when I get into LinkedIn and I'm doing searches through the search bar, I'm actually searching for things like podcast host, host of podcast, right? I'm going straight to the source. I am not necessarily looking for the people that maybe they're thinking of launching a show right now, because what I need to get into is that this person needs podcast management. It's going to be quicker and easier for me to find someone that publicly facing is a podcast host. There's already a show out there. When I'm generating leads, I don't have any way of being like, I found this random profile. Let me jump into their head and see if they're thinking about maybe launching a podcast sometime, hopefully. So for you, from a client management standpoint, you're going to want to bring in existing podcasters as clients as well. So I know that seems obvious, but I want to just set that baseline. Number one, we are doing this on LinkedIn. Number two, when we search for people, we are searching for the phrase podcast host. Okay. Now, what we're doing from there, if this is someone that we are not connected to, because we're doing a lot of audience building, meaning we're doing a lot of connection requests and pulling new people into our LinkedIn ecosystem, the message that I have, and I'll give it to you verbally here, but remind me, I will drop it into the comments so you can grab it too. The message that has worked the most for us after literally 12 months of testing, it says something along the lines of, hey, Stephanie, reaching out in the event that you've wanted to up-level your podcast this year. Our team brings 30 years of production and strategy to every show we work on. If this catches your eye, it would be great to connect. I'm thinking I could recite that in my sleep, but I will still drop it in the comments because I may have gotten one or two words switched. But there's three parts to that message, right? So outside of the greeting, I like to just tell them right away why I'm reaching out, but framing it in a way of what's in it for them, right? So I am reaching out in case you've wanted to up level your podcast. Now, the up level aspect of that verbiage, that is one of those things that the more sales conversations and sales calls we've had with podcasters, that's language that they have given to us. as an agency, we work a lot on like the marketing strategy, the growth. So that really resonates for us. If you're getting into podcast management and you're much more so working on like the management admin side and not like growth strategy or the marketing strategy, all of those elements, when you build out kind of that first line of here's why I'm reaching out and here's what's in it for you, you want to play with what is the big benefit of working with you, right? So let's say, for example, the amazing thing about you is you are so darn organized that you are saving them so many hours, but also they can really trust you with a high quality podcast because their podcast means a lot to them. So I'm kind of riffing here, but if I were to be in that position and reaching out, I think I would say something like, hey, Stephanie, I'm reaching out because I save my clients between 5 and 10 hours spent every single week on their podcast. If that's something that would be of benefit for you, I would love to connect with you. So again, you can kind of see like how we're contextualizing that. If you're not quite sure, also like drop a comment below. Let's go back and forth on it. I am just kind of speaking outwardly at this point, but I definitely want to connect one-on-one with you as well. So again, that is the connection point. The ending piece of that, which I do think is important as well. It says, if this catches your eye, let's connect. For me, when I'm doing these outbound messages and these connection requests on LinkedIn, I like to kind of give them like the right to opt out. I don't want them to just blindly accept it, because when I get that accepted connection request, I'm going to take that as there's interest. It could be 1 degree of difference. It could be 99 degrees of difference, whatever. But I want to make sure in that connection request, like, hey, if this isn't for you, like, it's all good, right? We don't have to link up. So I can try and like finesse it down a little bit, niche it down a little bit in those messages, right? So that's step number one. Once I get connected to somebody through that message in LinkedIn, my next step is to clarify what about that message caught their eye. Now, again, our leading message is all about up leveling, right? So that would say something like, hey, Stephanie, thanks so much for linking up. I'm looking forward to getting to know you. What does up level mean to you, right? Or thanks for checking out my message. I'm so curious to know, what does up level mean for you? Now, giving you the secondary example of I save whatever's 5 to 10 hours a week on their podcast. Hey, Stephanie, thank you so much for connecting. I'm glad that resonated with you. How much time are you actively involved in your podcast right now? Right. So we're taking our connection message, we're getting them through what I'm going to call just like the first level of that conversation. And then we're grounding them back down, and we're getting a lot more specific in terms of what is happening for them with their podcast. Now, your conversation from here is going to take a couple different directions. Again, it's going to really depend on your personal positioning, which we will have plenty of resources on in this group. So have no fear. I want you to think about your positioning in the context of how you're selling yourself, so that you're not kind of operating in a vacuum, right? But as you navigate your conversations, ultimately what I would get them to is a sales call. So there's kind of 4 phases that I like to follow. And even when I was just in general business coaching, I taught sales this way as well. The 4 steps of navigating that conversation is number 1, and I'll give you the terms and I'll go through and define them. It's baseline, it's goals, it's gap, and then it's the ask. So baseline, goals, gap, and then the ask. And if someone's watching with me here, like, please drop that in the comments. It just makes it easier for everybody to be able to go through and see them. Now, when I talk about baseline, my AirPod is trying to dislodge itself from my ear. When I talk about baseline, what I mean is, what's the baseline situation? What is going on for them right now? So in our conversation, again, leading with that up level, asking them what up level means to them, I ask a lot of questions around like, talk to me about how far you're into the podcast right now. What have been your key learnings so far? What's working for you from a growth and marketing and distribution standpoint? Give me kind of a snapshot of where the podcast is today. Going on our conversation example of like, I save you 5-10 hours, I make your life easier, blah, blah, blah. Again, asking how involved they are in the podcast, and then what specific processes are they in, right? Obviously they're recording if they're the host, but on the back end, like, what are they still involved in, right? So what is the current snapshot? What's the baseline of what we're working with? Once you've established that, then we go into the phase that's all about the goals. So we know what's happening right here and now, but what do they want to have happen? From a time management standpoint, again, that 5 to 10 hour example, that's an easy one, because probably they want to get some of their time back. They probably want to delegate some of these tasks. They probably want to get back into their genius zone. They want to show up and record and just like feel so happy that the rest of it is not on their plate. We hear that a lot, right? So what are your goals, right? If your calendar looks like X, Y, and Z now, and you could offload some of those tasks, like what would that look like for you? What do you want to see if you were to delegate some of those tasks, right? For us in the up level conversation, it says it's things like, okay, so you're marketing on XYZ platform right now. You've been building up until this point in this way, but it's not quite working for you. What do you want to see happen? Like, what is your actual goal for all of this? What are you not seeing right now that you want to? Let's get so clear on what that goal is. The thing with any type of selling is that you always want that person on the other end of the messenger thread, the Zoom, the phone call, whatever, to hand you the blueprint. And the really interesting thing in the way that we sell, right, as humans, is that your prospect will give you the blueprint. It's your line of questioning to get them there. So again, we need to know what's going on right now. So we know exactly what baseline we're building from. We need to know what their goals are. So they're here, they want to be here. How do we get there? That's what the third step is. It's the gap, right? So for us, what has held you back from understanding how to market and grow this thing, right? What's missing in the formula for you to offload some of these tasks and get your time back? What is the gap between where they are and where they want to be? And then fourth and final, that's asking them to the call. Woohoo. That is once you get that gap, that is what you are asking them for permission to solve, right? Okay, awesome, Stephanie. Well, I would love to connect with you on a call if you're open to it. It seems like you're really focused on X, Y, and Z, and we help with that. Are you open to exploring what's possible, right? That makes a lot of sense to me. We support a lot of podcasters in this. I'd be happy to talk through what that could look like and what's possible for you. Are you open to getting on a call? Right? Hey, I would love to hear more than that. We've worked with clients on this before. I would love to kind of take a deeper dive. Are you open to scheduling a call? Right? So again, you're selling to that gap piece to get that phone call. Same thing from a time management perspective. Hey, I hear that a lot from clients. I think, generally when I'm talking to them, they're saving between 5 and 10 hours every week and just really getting back into their genius zone. Do you want to connect and talk about how I might be able to help you? Right? Yeah, I totally get that. I would love to take a deeper dive into that, hopefully get you some time back and also just mental bandwidth. That's really what I do with my clients. Are you open to a call to explore that together? Right. So again, I'm just kind of riffing here, but I want you to get the overall structure. Again, for context, we do so much of this over on LinkedIn. It is my favorite platform for lead generation. It is fastest. It is most effective for us. We've put a lot of effort into that. So I hope to share those learnings with you. Like, please benefit from the work that we've done and are doing every single day. But again, that gives you some context in terms of how are we going out and finding these podcasters? How are we opening up the conversation? And then also, how are we navigating this conversation? How do we get them to a call where we can walk through and position ourselves? I'll do sales calls on another video, words are hard, in the group if that's of interest to everybody. I don't know where everybody feels their skill level is in terms of sales. But that has been my entire career, and I am always happy to talk about sales, especially in the podcasting space. I think as you navigate those calls, there's so many different elements to podcasts and podcast management. So helping you to really form up those calls, I hope that's a value for you. It would actually be quite fun for me, so don't hesitate to ask. But I hope this gives you a little bit of a jumping off point in terms of generating leads, navigating those conversations. Again, we'll do more of these here in this group as well. So look forward to those. Also, just a heads up for you, it should be coming out in the next week here. We are just putting the final touches on it, which I'm really excited for. But the overarching response to, hey, what resource would be most applicable to you and most helpful to you from, I guess, last week at this point, maybe the week before, was just a generalized kind of business building guide. So we are putting the final touches on that right now. I'm really excited to share that with you. Obviously, lead gen and sales is a big part of that, but it's also going to cover things like putting together your package, understanding your positioning, all of these different elements that'll help just give you that jumping off point. The best thing that we can give you is just, again, think of bumpers on the bowling lane as you get all of this started. And please lean into us as a resource as well. I'm here. You'll see lots of people from the team. We're always hanging out here in the group, so you can reach out through comment, message, anything like that. But keep an eye out for that business building guide. We're really excited to put that out so soon. And as always, if you have any questions on anything in this video, drop them below because I'll go and jump back into the comments here in a couple minutes, make sure you have what you need, and share what's working for you and what you're getting stuck on and all that good stuff as well. So thank you very much for tuning in. Cheers to many more of these to come, and have a great rest of your day wherever you are.